Hello and welcome to episode 68 of the 214 Sports Show, Everything Dallas Sports, every Thursday at 11 a.m. I'm TJ Krilowicz. I'm joined with Joseph Duffey. As always, how are you doing?
Glad to be back, TJ. Doing all right. Glad to be with you again on this podcast and got some more stuff to talk about.
Yeah, plenty of things to talk about within the Dallas sports world. We have the Dallas Stars going into the Western Conference Finals. The Texas Rangers in season. They just had their rivalry weekend against the Houston Astros, now playing against the New York Yankees. The Dallas Cowboys gearing up for their preseason sooner or later. That's going to be happening in the later half of the summer. And then the Dallas Mavericks, of course, just going into their NBA draft where they have the number one overall pick, and then, of course, NBA free agency. So we're going to dive in. This is episode 68, as I already mentioned. This is going to be the first year Craig Gentry episode. If you do not know, Craig Gentry, Rangers legend. I think he's one of my favorite utility Rangers players of all time, for sure. I love Craig Gentry. And his first year with the or not the New York Rangers, oops, the Texas Rangers.
Rangers.
He was number 68. He had 17 at bats, got two hits. Two hits as number 68 until he moved to his number 23 for the Rangers for the rest of his years for the with Texas. But yeah, no, Craig Gentry first year. I was thinking Yamamir Yager for his half season he had with the Dallas Stars, hockey legend, NHL legend, but decided to go with Craig Gentry instead. So that's who I'm going with. But anyways, on today's date, going to start with something a little positive. Last year, May 22nd, 2024, the Dallas Mavericks win game one of the Western Conference Finals against the Minnesota Timberwolves by a final score of 108 to 105. Scoring was led by, of course, that fast slob Luka Doncic, who had 33 points and helped
That
lead the comeback
alcoholic, yeah.
win. Yeah, the alcoholic. As the Mavs trailed for most of the fourth quarter, they trailed for really most of the game in game one, if you don't remember. The Mavs only shot 24% from three, but made them when it mattered. They had back-to-back threes from Luka and PJ Washington late in the fourth quarter to take them from being down four to up two. Kyrie also had 30 points himself out there going and tiring out Anthony Edwards. And the Mavericks take game one, eventually winning that series in five, as we all know. Thought this was pretty fitting as well, since we also know another Dallas team who's going to be playing in game one. Of course, we don't know the outcome of that game, the Stars Oilers game one. This it seems like this has been happening a lot recently, that we've had an important game that we couldn't be able to react to. But, anyways, Mavs
It's
take
all
game.
good. But that was a great game, last year. It's a shame that this Western Conference Finals we have to watch this year is against, well, it's with teams that the Mavs beat last year with, of course, Luka Doncic. So it's a hard to watch, especially the Tuesday game one matchup in OKC, where OKC just thumped Minnesota. You have to think the Timberwolves are going to respond, but so I don't think it's anywhere close to over. But it's hard to watch when you see games like last year where the Mavs manhandled the T-Wolves honestly for the majority of that series, and then somehow beat OKC in 6 games. I shouldn't say somehow. We know, the source of the majority of those beatings, but you know, it just sucks how since that happened, Mavs haven't made the playoffs. Luckily, they've made a great trade, or not a great trade rather, but have had more luck in the draft lottery and have a chance to get a new franchise player, but it will never be the same. That run last year was special, and
Very
we
special.
enjoyed every single moment of it, especially that game one and game two victory in Minnesota, and of course another clutch shot with the Rudy Gobert and stuff, and it sucks.
Yeah, you could think about how that series could have easily seesawed back in the Minnesota's momentum if the Mavericks didn't win that game one or even game two. They were very close to losing both of those games in Minnesota. So pulled out. They had a good. They were very clutch team. They almost won game four from a comeback as well. But anyways, we're gonna go into the Dallas Stars. The Dallas Stars going into their sixth Western Conference final. in the century. That is the most out of any Dallas teams. They have now surpassed the Dallas Mavericks, who were at 5. They were tied. Of course, we all know that the Dallas Cowboys still at that fat 0 since the turn of the century. But the Stars at 6, unfortunately, they haven't been able to win that Lord Stanley since the turn of the century. They won in 1999, but they're trying to do that right here. They're halfway there. They're going to play the Edmonton Oilers. Game one is set for Wednesday. This episode is going to be posted the day after the game is concluded. But the Dallas Stars get their rematch from last year, the Western Conference Finals, where the Edmonton Oilers took down the Stars in 6, kind of getting a rivalry renewed in the sense that the Dallas Stars and Edmonton Oilers played almost every single year in that late 1990s, early 2000s, where the Stars were really good, the Madonna years. The Oilers seem to be the team that the Stars always played in the first round and always beat. So hopefully they can come back again and do the same as they were. They take care of business. The Oilers are a very scary team coming back from losing or beating the Vegas Knights in 5 games. Only took them 5 to beat Vegas. Stuart Skinner, their goalie, has now kind of been on a heater after really, really struggling in the first part of the playoffs. Now doing really well, which is what kind of happened last year. So I'm a little worried about how he's going to perform here against Dallas because he's been very good, and that's how he started in the Western Conference Finals last year against the Stars. Um, but I mean, you got a trifecta of former stars on this Edmonton Oilers team, all 3 from the 2020 Cup Finals team that lost to Tampa. You got Corey Perry, who's had a huge resurgence under the power play in the offense that is kept up and well maintained by Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, Zach Hyman, Ryan Nugent Hopkins, Evander Kane. They have a bunch of weapons, and Corey Perry has been able to fit in very nicely and been able to have a resurgence of a season for him. You also have John Klingberg, who's a Stars
Hmm.
legend at this point, who's going to give some probably pretty good intel for the Oilers of these Dallas Stars players, this Dallas Stars team. And then you also have Matisse Janmark, who was one of my favorite players, one of our fourth liners for our 2020 team. Has also been playing pretty well and had a good couple seasons for Edmonton in the past few years. But the Stars looking pretty, pretty. I don't want to say pretty good or pretty bad because we don't know how game one's going to go,
Hmm.
but they've had a very, very tough playoffs. They've been able to prevail before. I don't know. I want to hear Joe. How is your confidence with the Stars going into this Edmonton series?
I think it's even keel just knowing that they beat the Stars last year in 6 games, so they're capable of losing this team again. Edmonton probably thinks they have some unfinished business after losing the Stanley Cup. But I will say that I did not expect Edmonton to beat Vegas in 5 games. That was kind of shocking to me. Utter domination for the majority of that series. I have to think that if in this Stars Western Conference Finals, I think that Corey Perry, like you were saying, is probably the X factor because McDavid will do what he does best. I don't think he'll be, a different kind of player. He'll be the same kind of great player we've seen in the past. It's probably Corey Perry that'll depend on if they can actually knock off the Stars in the playoffs. Who do you think is the X factor for the Stars, though? Is it Jake Ottinger? Is it Miko? Because Miko has been great, like majority of the playoffs. Who is actually going to be for the Stars? That's the X factor. And if you want to answer the Edmonton one too, who's the X factor for them as well?
Well, I think their X factor, and this is going to be kind of this is very basic, but the X factors I think for both teams are going to be the goaltenders, and I think that Jake Ottinger obviously has the edge. He's had a great postseason so far, but they're going up. He's going up against a team with the Edmonton Oilers, who have averaged almost 4 goals a game in the playoffs so far, and have always seemed to just kind of be in the right place, right time to make those clutch goals. I think that Edmonton is by far, even when you have a team like the Avalanche, who have Nathan McKinnon, Nichushkin, Cal McCarr. You also have the Jets with Kyle Connor and their President's Cup team. I think that the Oilers are still the best offensive team, best depth-wise that we have seen so far this postseason. I'd like to say that the Oilers are basically the Avalanche on crack. They are very good and they are very quick. They all they need basically is just about 30 seconds of good hockey to score a goal. You have to be on your toes all 60 minutes against this team, and that's what Jake Oettinger is going to have to do. He struggled a little bit against them last year. He did decent enough. Our offense is really what didn't show last year. I'm hoping that that's not a repeat. Jake Oettinger, he's going to be a huge X factor for the Stars. Another X factor that I think, not just a player, but just a thing, is that the Stars, if they're going to want to beat Edmonton, they have to beat the power play. They have to beat the power play. Their penalty kill has been phenomenal. The special teams is going to be so important, but they need to stop getting in the box. And on the other side, flip the script, their power play needs to score as many times possible when they get the chance. If you look at how the statistics have gone in the playoffs, the two teams that Edmonton has played, the Knights and the Kings, are top five in the playoffs this year on power play percentage. The Kings being number one. And the Stars already right now are ranked third in the playoffs this season for power play percentage. They're going to have to take advantage of the power play. They have been taking advantage throughout this postseason. And I think that's the reason why they've won some of these games that they shouldn't have won. I think that there's a lot of the Stars are a gritty team, all right? They win a lot of games that seems like they probably shouldn't have won. And that's what's going to have to happen in Edmonton. They're going to have to win through special teams. It is a must for them to get their revenge on Edmonton.
Was this series starting in Edmonton last year? I'm forgetting.
No, it
Or
was in
did
Dallas.
Dang, so it's
Stars
gonna be
won the West.
the same thing this year, starting in American Airlines Center. I
Mm.
guess you could say another X factor is just home field advantage or home puck advantage.
Home ice
But
advantage.
huh?
Home ice advantage.
Home ice advantage. My bad. But yeah, man, just these crowds have been a big factor in the NHL playoffs as well. Can't say there's been a quiet crowd for the Stars in this entire playoff run. So I think they'll make a difference for sure. But I think it just depends on these first two games, getting, at least a split, because this series is definitely going at least six. Again, we saw this last year, how competitive it was. I'm surprised it didn't go seven. The Stars kind of ran out of gas towards the end, and then, Connor McDavid really heated up and just pretty much ended the series towards the end. And Stuart Skinner, of course, had 33 saves in game six. So I think that really just comes down to who is not going to be as tired towards the end of the series because it's getting to be that part of the NHL playoffs where there's no excuses if you are tired. I mean, everybody is gassed, everybody's beat up. It's just about who wants it more. And so having this series again, which you said has been historic in the NHL playoffs, has happened so many times. I believe the Oilers snapped that streak historically between these two teams, the Stars who won like five straight series against the Oilers in the playoffs last year, looking to do it again, looking to finally get that playoff, looking to get that Stanley Cup back in their hands after losing to Florida. But it's going to be a competitive one. Like I said, I think it's probably going to go at least six games. So I'm pretty even keeled. I'm not like overconfident, but I do believe Dallas can hang in there and hold their own.
Yeah, and again, we don't really know the outcome of game one on home ice, but the Stars have been playing really well on the home ice at American Airlines Center. But speaking of American Airlines Center, I just thought that this was pretty funny. Have you heard about this I've seen it going around on Twitter/X that, Katy Perry had a concert at American Airlines Center on Wednesday, May 21st. And unfortunately, since the NHL decided to schedule the Dallas Stars, so unfortunate that the Katy Perry concert at American Airlines Center was delayed by a day and sent her fans into an uproar. They were very angry. They were in the American Airlines Center comments telling them that they better not delay this concert for some pointless sports event,
Pointless
which I think is
sports.
pretty rich coming from a person who's going to a Katy Perry concert in the big 2025.
2025. Oh
But
my
hey, I'm
Lord.
just saying, like, look at this, man. The Dallas Stars. You're saying the Stars aren't a hockey city. I know this is really the NHL who did this, but hey, Dallas is a hockey city. We're prioritizing the Dallas Stars over Katy freaking Perry, who went to space just not that long ago. Pretty cool, man. I mean, hey, we're more important. This pointless, this useless sports event or whatever they're talking about is definitely more important. So pretty cool. I think it's
They've been
pretty fun.
destroying her on social media recently, man. It feels like they keep calling her washed and stuff. It's like
Oh, big
she used
plenty.
to she used to drop
She is
so many
washed.
bangers, bro. Why are they disrespecting Katy Perry these days? You hate to
Hey,
see it.
she's trying to do all these antics at her concert or whatever that it's obvious that I think that she's probably not suited to do all these antics. She
She's
might
just
not be the
hanging
best
on.
at it.
Yeah. Hey man, most number ones in the album since Michael Jackson's Thriller, bro. She used to go crazy on that what was it, the
It's
2011
a
album or something
crazy
like that?
fact drop right there.
I think it was. Dude, she used to be insane. She still has no Grammys, which is
No
crazy.
Grammys.
No, that's
Crazy.
like a no ring talk
Maybe if
basically.
she had
No
a Grammy,
rings.
maybe she would be playing at the American Airlines Center Wednesday night, but instead it's going to be Corey Perry. But anyways, that's going to be the Dallas Stars preview for the Western Conference Finals. We're going to move on to the Texas Rangers, who I don't even know why I have all this emphasis in my voice right now. The Texas Rangers are have like very little emphasis. They're very, very boring to watch. Um, they are now after having a six-game winning streak. They ended up tying their series against the Houston Astros at Globe Life Field, or if you could say it's Dowkin Park North or whatever the hell their new stadium's called. I don't. It'll always be Minute Maid Park to me. But and then after that they lose the series opener to the New York Yankees 5-2. Very, very poor offensive performance. Can't blame this on Patrick Corbin or the pitching staff, really. The team kind of collapsed here. Joe, I mean, this has been a pretty poor season so far. I would say that I'm very, very surprised to see that the Rangers are over 500 with the way that the offense has been performing. Do you where like what is the most what area of the Rangers right now needs the most improvement right now? And I'm not talking just hitting, like you talk about like the outfield or the infield, whatever. I don't know.
Um, it's probably just it's probably the middle infield. I mean, I don't want to blame Seager because he's just banged up right now. He's had an okay season, but Marcus Semien, that's just he has not delivered, and he did it again in Game 1 against the New York Yankees. Multiple times where these guys just cannot knock in runners in scoring position. I mean, the amount of times we've seen it this year, bases loaded they had at one point in the Bronx last night, or I guess on Tuesday night, where they just could not knock in a single run. Jock Peterson, also who's moved around, been a DH, used to be an outfielder, but now a DH with Texas, just cannot knock a runner in. Yeah, against Warren, they had the chance to finally, tie the game, finally get on the board in about the sixth inning, and they still couldn't do it, even when he was nearing his pitch count. Bases loaded. Garcia couldn't do it. It's just the heart of the order for some reason that just can't even knock in these runners still. I don't expect the bottom of the order to make a lot of noise because those are the 7, 8, 9 guys. They're supposed to just, get on base at most, maybe knock in a run every now and then. But when your heart of the order is not doing anything meaningful, especially when runners are in second base and beyond, I mean, what do you do? Brett Boone cannot fix that. He can't do that. Like he can encourage you, he can talk about your approach, but these guys seem to be swinging for the fences almost every single pitch, man. They're not trying to go opposite field. They're not trying to just put the ball in play. It seems like everything is just a strikeout. And you saw it again in game 1 with the New York Yankees. I believe they struck out about 15, 14, 15 times as a team, which tied the season worst. And again, the Astros series, which you were just talking about, that should have been at least a series win. And that team only gave up, I believe, they had a shutout in game 1. They only gave up 6 runs, which shouldn't have happened in game 2. They should have won game 2. They were up 3-0. Well, they were
Yeah,
up
they
the
were at the
majority
end
of
of
that
the
game.
game.
I'm thinking of game 4 where they were up 3-0 and they blew it. But also, I mean, just they only gave up 1 run in that game 3 victory. They didn't give up that many runs to Houston, and they still split the series. When your pitching is doing this much and you're still losing games, that is quite concerning if you're Bruce Bochy. I don't know if he needs to move the lineup anymore because he's already done that so many times. But, hopefully when Corey Seager comes back, it'll be a big spark for them again. And when Evan Carter comes back as well, because he's now on the injured list as it stands. It's hard to watch because they need a spark desperately in this offense. I don't know if they're going to go after somebody in the trade deadline sometime in the midsummer,
Mhm.
period. But the pitching overall hasn't been bad. And it's hard to watch because I've never seen good regular season pitching for the most part that's consistent for the Texas Rangers. Usually it's the good, offense and, untimely pitching, but it's completely flipped this year. And the pitching is doing its job, especially the starting pitching. The offense is just not knocking it runs. So it definitely is running runners in scoring position. That's been the biggest heartbreaker for Texas this year for me.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned the middle part of the lineup. I mean, looking at this lineup, I mean, it's just atrocious, this combined batting average. I don't know what it would be, but you go from the number four hitter to the number seven hitter. That's Adolis Garcia, Marcus Simeon, Jock Peterson, Jake Berger. You have a
Buddy.
222 batting average, then a 175 batting average, then a 127 batting average, then a 211 batting average. Not None of those four players are having over or have a 300 plus on batting percentage or on base percentage. Sorry. Um, all of them have struggled pretty well this season, even with power as well. Um, Combined yesterday against New York, or I guess on Tuesday, 2 for 15. And of course, whenever you only score 2 runs, you had 8 hits that game, only 2 runs. You're going to need some of these players to produce a little bit more, especially when you got runners on base. That's just not what's happening with the Rangers. You talk about the relievers too. Unfortunately, this starting rotation might be one of the best in baseball. They've been absolutely crazy, and there's no reason for this Rangers team to be over 500 other than our starting rotation. And of course, still our relief system, which we've seen before. Ask me,
Buddy.
ask me this from 2023. Ask me this from 2016. The relief system has always needed improvement for the Rangers for some reason, and this is just another example. I mean, against the Houston Astros, where we've had 2 games where the relief system kind of blew it for this Ranger squad against a team who's has a horrible offensive season as well in Houston, still finding that way to take down the Rangers bullpen. Just very unacceptable play from the Rangers. It's hard to be optimistic about this team right now. But do you think that this team can still turn it around? Do you think it's still too early for us to be, I guess, worrying?
We're pretty tough on this team. I get it. People have talked about that in the comments on TikTok. But like, dude, at some point you have to see some improvement, especially with the offense. And who knows, maybe when the offense gets better, the pitching starts to get worse. I don't know. But you got to have some offense, man. You cannot be scoring 3 or less runs every single game. It's getting ridiculous. And
Hmm.
they're not even giving themselves a chance to win the game when your pitching is giving up, 1 or 2 runs at most, and you're doing nothing else to like help them out. Robert Garcia came into that game on Sunday, man. Even he had like, 1.80 ERA, and even he could have closed the door against Houston. That should have been a surefire victory, 3-0. Runners on first and second. Jack Leiter leaves the game after about 6 and 2/3 innings. I don't understand how you just can't even close the door with just a few innings left, man. And the offense, of course, only had 3 runs at the point in that Sunday game. But at that point, you got to do more to help your guys out. And Jonah Heim got in a costly rundown that got him thrown out at third base, kind of trying to reach out for more, going from second to third. Could that have ended up being the difference maker in the game? Maybe. But the offense has just struggled so much. You can't depend on pitching every single game. You just cannot. You have to have something else to counter off of it. We're not seeing a lot of those 10 run games we saw with the Rangers offense a few years ago in the World Series season when they, would have a 4 or 5 spot. You're lucky to see them score, 2 runs in an inning these days. So if they can get something going by the All-Star break, that's fine. We've seen worse in the MLB where teams heat up in the second half of the season. It's not the end of the world. Like you were saying, it's a real surprise that they're even 1 game over 500 right now It's honestly insane when you look at the standings because the American League is not exactly great right now, but you should expect more from this team, especially by now as we're approaching June.
Yeah, they gotta be aggressive on the base path. I mean, remember when we were talking about Jonah Heim stealing bases and such, and now he's
Yeah.
getting thrown out between second and third. Another instance from Tuesday's game against New York is that Wyatt Langford, there's a pop-up for Adolis Garcia that kind of dropped down in no man's land between I think second and right field. And Langford got a pretty good jump on it actually from second base, rounded third, and was told to hold up by our third base coach, Tony Beasley. Um, that relay that came back in to home, I mean, the catcher bobbled it. I mean, unfortunately, we couldn't get a run that inning. We ended up going back to the dugout, bases loaded, ending the inning with bases loaded. Wyatt Langford was on third. Could have scored right there. Of course, that wouldn't have meant anything, sorry, because Aaron Judge hits a, Mickey Mouse New York Yankee Stadium home run in the late innings to give him a 3-run lead. But um, I mean, you're not gonna have, I think that this team just has to win through small ball. They have to win through small ball. They have to be aggressive on the base pass. They have to steal bases whenever they get on base. They have to be able to just be aggressive and take those chances because this team, it's hard to say that you can really change this 49 games in, but of course it is still a really long season theoretically. They're still not even close to being halfway done with this season. So, still a lot of ball left. Still lots of ball left for the Texas Rangers to turn it around. So, maybe we are being a little too harsh.
Maybe,
Who
but
knows?
come on, the way this team was advertised, like
I mean, it's hard not to be. It's really
exactly.
hard to be positive about the Rangers. There's been so many times as a, I know that we're relatively young. We've only been really watching since the 2010s or so when the super team that we had for 2 years. Um, but man, the Rangers, man, they always seem to defy the odds. They always seem to be the most mediocre team possible. And they broke that for 1 year. They broke
They
it for 1 year, and now it seems like they've just gone right back into it ever since. It's hard to be positive sometimes, but
they can
still
never
love
put
them
it
no
all
matter what.
together. So always got to be something that's lacking.
Yeah,
Sucks.
it's always one thing works, one thing bad. All right, moving on to the Dallas Cowboys, just super quickly. The Dallas Cowboys going into going close to basically having a preseason training here, or training camp almost soon, in a few months now, going to be in August. So, CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens, they were caught in an interview, and CeeDee Lamb went on to say that there is no wide receiver one or two, basically, that they are going to be interchangeable. Between the two. And so Brian Schottenheimer, head coach, went on and repeated that as well. I kind of like that these two have already kind of started to pick up chemistry already. I think that that's going to be a big thing for this team. CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens both have had issues, kind of, I guess, with being divas, I guess, if you will. I don't know, but both of them seem like they're getting along pretty well. Don't know if that's going to help them at all this regular season, but I don't know. What do you think?
Amen. Tommy Yarish, our very own Tommy Yarish, who's come in before in the podcast, wrote an article about this yesterday, basically saying, how they've picked up a little bit chemistry, like you were talking about, OTAs. It's pretty cool to see. Everything's kind of a business pig, as I'm saying, so he wasn't shocked or excited that he came in ready to work with these guys and ready to work with CD. And look, sometimes you got to have your receivers be divas a little bit. A little bit. You want them to have the ball. You want them to want the ball. You saw AJ Brown last year kind of, get in the face of these coaches saying,
Reading the
give me the
books.
rock. Reading the books. Oh, I'm just reading a book, on the sidelines. Because why not? Why not just read a book? But yeah, I mean, just this Cowboys team, Brian Schottenheimer, I will say, I've told Tommy this before, he's kind of growing on me a little bit. I don't know how you feel about him. Just watching his post game or post practice press conferences or his top of the week press conferences, his personality seems like, he's very football first, doesn't care about the hoopla a lot. Really cares about team chemistry, as you were kind of hinting at as well, which I really like. So I'm really digging these two in Lamb and Pickens as the top receivers. I really do think they can make some magic offensively. Now, the run game, that is still a question, but as far as the pass game, I think this team will be really good.
Well, hey, I mean, I don't know. I always like to think about Ryan Hopper's quote in our TSTV mock draft where you gotta say you gotta have the you can't just have the Jim and Joes, you gotta have the X's and O's as well. And I guess you could say that CeeDee Lamb and Pickens, they're definitely the flashy guys. They're gonna be a great duo. But then you got the X's and O's with Brian Shoddy. And he's also, yeah, it seems like he's been a great players coach. But yeah, I think so that this team has been growing on me, and I wish that it wouldn't because it's always so tough to go into a regular season expecting the Cowboys to do good because we all know how it usually ends. But I am kind of excited to see this duo. Um, the one thing about George Pickens, though, is that he is going to be a free agent after this season. Now, we have already talked about this since the trade went down on this podcast, but I mean, you have a guy who has been struggling with QBs. QBs in Pittsburgh have not been too good recently in these last few years. And despite that, Pickens has still gone out there and has scored 12 touchdowns in his last three seasons, has almost 3,000 yards in his first three seasons with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Is this somebody that we should look at re-signing before the season even begins? And of course, we already have. I mean, I don't know if I need to say this, but we do have a lot more players that need to be re-signed, and we haven't really gone around to doing that yet. So do you think that this would be a decision for the Cowboys to make? Should they look at maybe short term, long term? Should they even care about looking to re-sign him right now?
They should look. They should look, but they won't. They won't. We know how this goes. They got to get all of their signings at the buzzer. Someone's got to hold out in the
Yeah.
summer of next year. We know how this goes. They're not going to get ahead of the curve. They're not going to beat the league when it comes to the market being set in
Yep.
terms of free agency. They won't even do a thing. If they do sign him, it'll be the middle of the season. If he's like going crazy or something, or he like exceeds expectations, that's the only time I think they'll ever do that. But
Hmm.
they're not going to sign this dude like this off season. I think they're waiting for him to do something, which I don't blame him. I mean, he just got here. He's been, looked at as a head case before with Mike Tomlin, the Steelers. Mike Tomlin, as we've heard from Pittsburgh, he kind of orchestrated and kind of led that move for him to get out of Pittsburgh because, like I say, he's been a little bit of a head case, which, if you're Mike Tomlin, I get why you don't want to deal with that anymore. He's a pretty no-nonsense coach. So I think they're not going to get this done early. If the earliest is like, the mid-season point of the regular season, that's what I would think. But I would like to think they can get it done early, but they won't. They won't.
I don't think they will either. And again, yeah, you got Micah Parsons, you got any other players, you got Deron Bland and people who are looking at extensions
Man.
as well. It's going to be a tough. I mean, this is the Cowboys, man. They really don't set themselves up well for off seasons. They really don't. They really don't. And this is going to be another instance next season. Of course, we still got the whole 2025 season ahead of us before we get to that dreadful off season where somebody's probably going to hold out, as you said. But yeah, I think it's going to be a while till the Cowboys look at even re-signing George Pickens, even though they just got him and spent some decent capital to get him. But anyways, moving on to the Dallas Mavericks. Just super quickly, of course, there hasn't been too much for the Dallas Mavericks ever since they got the number one pick in the NBA draft lottery. They're still waiting for the draft after the season concludes. But the most recent news has been that the Mavs, of course, have this kind of three-headed monster in the paint, which is Daniel Gafford, Derek Lively, and Anthony Davis. And it's going to be very hard to pay all three of them. Going to be very hard to keep all three of them, as we've kind of predicted. And of course, the odd man out is not going to be the superstar. It's not going to be the young player with the potential. It's going to be Daniel Gafford. And obviously, also he is going to be an unrestricted free agent next year. Getting paid about 14, $15 million on his contract right now. Derek Lively looking to get an extension soon, and Anthony Davis locked up for the next few years. Gafford's the odd man out. Do you think that the Mavs should trade Gafford this offseason?
Well, if they want a point guard, unfortunately, I think they should. Um, I think that they need someone to hold over because you can't depend on Spencer Dinwiddie and Dante Exum for half a season. I'm sorry. I like the guys, but like, let's just be real.
They're
There's
both
no reason.
unrestricted free agents, too.
Both this offseason?
Yep, they're
Oh
both free
my
agents.
goodness. Well, they could get like a high leverage, point guard, I think, with the trade of Daniel Gafford, who, by the way, is 26 years old. Surprised he's actually still this young. And by these reports I'm seeing, it looks like he still wants to get paid a lot of money, starter money, that is, which I don't know if he's exactly worth that at this point. It would have been more worth it if Luka Doncic was still here, but he's not. So when you have a point guard who can't dish it necessarily like Luka Doncic could have to him with all his alley-oops and him finishing down low, I think you just have to get rid of him. And he was a vital part of that run last year with the Mavericks, and it would suck to see him go from a fan perspective, but I do think that he's a valuable asset that can be used for a return along with a pick to get a point guard that can hold Dallas over until Kyrie Irving comes back. And what I'm hearing is January, February next year, Kyrie Irving returning after that ACL
Seems
injury,
really early.
which seems really early. I feel like it never actually happens that early.
Yeah.
It never really does. But, they need someone to hold this team over until he comes back because when he comes back, that roster, the starting five, should be pretty dangerous.
Yeah, and from my standpoint is that I think that Daniel Gafford, it would be really saddening for me. It would be like it'd be like watching a kid go off to college for me to see Daniel Gafford go because I can't. I mean, he's one of my favorite players on this team, on this roster. He reminds me a
Plays
lot of
hard.
Brendan Wright,
Yeah.
in a sense that he's just this big lob threat that's, I mean, you don't want to see in the paint, man. He's a really good big man. He has some issues, I guess, with defense at times, but foul issues. But Gafford, man, the landlord for a reason. He collects payments, man. You go in the paint, man. You're paying rent against Daniel Gafford. He's a really good player, but I get the whole thing of trading him. You made a very good point, especially with the point guard situation, Kyrie being hurt, Exum and Dinwiddie being free agents. My one wish is that if the Mavs trade Daniel Gafford, please just don't trade him to the Lakers. Please, please, please don't trade
Yeah.
him to the Lakers.
Yeah. Please no.
Just
I
trade him
can't I can't
anywhere
do it
else.
again.
Ship him to New York, man. Let him go to a good team that just unfortunately didn't steal our generational superstar from us last season. Just give us just don't work with the LA again, man. Just don't. Don't. That friendship with Rob Pelinka should be finished, man. No more.
No
No
more.
more.
No
Do
more.
not talk to that dude anymore. He fleeced you. All right? He's not your friend, Nico. Do not talk to him. But anyways, that's going to do it for the 214 Sports Show this lovely Thursday morning or Thursday afternoon or Friday, whenever you're watching. I don't know when you're going to be watching this. We really appreciate the support for this channel and for this brand that we're trying to build with the 214 Sports Show. We've had a lot of interaction recently, and we really appreciate it. You can follow us at 214 Sports Show on X, on Twitter, or X/Twitter, on Instagram, and also on TikTok. That'll be at 214 Sports Show. And then you can like, subscribe, share, and follow us all on YouTube and Spotify. That'll be at the 214 Sports Show. Joe, do you want to give your socials out real quick?
Yes, sir. You can follow me on Instagram and X/Twitter at Joseph_Duffy99. And also you can follow me on TikTok at JOE_Duffy. And that's all I got.
All right. And then you could follow me on Twitter/X at TJ_Krilowicz, and then on Instagram at TJ.Krilowicz. Once again, this has been the 214 Sports Show, episode 68, the rookie year of Craig Gentry, technically. Not even really his rookie year, just
First year Craig Gentry episode.
we're really starting to pick at some
Yeah. We're scraping now. We're
we're really
scraping.
getting some scraps right now. These higher numbers, we'll see. But once again, thank you very much for tuning in. And we will see you guys next week for episode 69. Peace.